Hi, Nikki Wyatt, the Karma Coach, talking to you about planetary essences and the influence of different planets on our lives and our personalities and our patterns and the soul journeys that each planet offers us in terms of its energy and the journey you take as you move through the different ways of looking at life that each planet offers. So I'm going to begin with Aries, the first in the zodiac, and I'll go through all 12. So Aries is very fiery, very dynamic energy. It's all about going from frustration as a soul journey to compassion. If you can integrate the lessons of Mars, which is the planet that rules Aries. So you're looking at a tendency towards impatience, that being tense, being driven. It can be hard to allow ourselves to make mistakes when we're being very stirred up by Mars. It can be hard to work as part of a team, and it can be difficult to have the patience to sit and listen to people. So it can cause quite a bit of misunderstandings when Mars is really strong in your chart. And it can also, on the upside, be a very innovative planetary influence. It loves to initiate change. It's very pioneering, very passionate, very quick thinking, very independent and dynamic, very much a free spirit, and very good at holding the vision for a project or a team. Um, and the essence for this that I put together is it will bring in the qualities of gentleness and self-compassion. It will help to encourage you to slow down, to listen more to yourself and to other people, and that will increase then more intimacy in your life and in your relationships. It'll move you more from your ego into more of a spiritual service um, attitude to life, and it'll help you to feel much more patient and to be more appreciative of the people around you and their gifts. So, moving on, I'm moving to Taurus, which is ruled traditionally by Venus. I sometimes think it's perhaps also ruled by Earth. Um, but the soul journey of this planet to me is moving from doubt to and pessimism to trust and optimism. So Taurians can, this planet can mean that if it's very strong for you, then you might be easily discouraged. You might hesitate quite a lot, and therefore you start something and then you don't quite follow through on it. You might find that you're quite anxious and you dislike change because of the chaos that has to happen before change. It's all the breaking the eggs to make the omelette. That moment can be quite tricky for someone if they've got a lot of Taurian energy. There might be a tendency to brood. Um, and it can be quite hard to believe in a universe that's actually supportive and wants to help you. And uh, on the upside, there are a lot of Taurians in my life, and I very much appreciate their gifts, which are those of creativity, sensuality. They're very reliable. They're often the rocks in people's lives. They're very loyal. They have a strong connection to nature and are very appreciative of beauty, of harmony. And they love usually music, color, gardening, anything connected to crafting and art. That's very much the world they really shine in. Um, and the essence for this planet that will help you to integrate the gifts and challenges will lift your spirits. It'll lighten your load. It'll give you a confidence that there is a positive outcome available to you. It'll help you believe more in divine timing. It'll help you step into flow. And it can definitely help you to accept the inevitable chaos that comes with change. Moving now into Gemini, ruled by the planet of communication, Mercury. Um, as you know, Mercury is also known as an element as quicksilver because it moves about a lot, and that's very typical of the Gemini energy. They can seem a little bit ADHD as a personality. They're able to multitask like nobody else. Um, and they're also very charming in company. Um, but underneath that, there is often a lot of procrastination. The journey of this planet is from self-doubt to decisiveness and to presence. So underneath the social facade for Geminis, there's often this self-criticism, which makes it difficult for them to take decisions, and self-doubt. They can be easily distracted and hard. It's quite hard to be intimate sometimes if someone's got strong Gemini because they're not very present. They're often off in their head somewhere. So the upside of this energy is they're fun-loving, they're witty, they're very eloquent. They can take in an extraordinary amount of information. When most of us will have given up and gone and got a cup of tea, they're still there, synthesizing more and more information. Um, and the healing essence for this planet energy is it will help you to connect and trust your intuition so that you feel more empowered, more decisive. It's easier for you to make decisions and follow through and to focus. And so you feel calmer and more confident in whatever decisions you need to make and whatever steps you need to take. Um, the next planet through the zodiac on this journey is Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. Now, the journey of this particular planet is going from the idealistic dreamer to more the creative manifester. And obviously, if you are feeling very influenced by the moon, which is a very yin energy, very nurturing female mothering energy, this might be a good one for you. The difficulties encountered with this planet can be a feeling of numbing out, of being lost in fantasy and dreaming and daydreaming a lot. You can feel quite indifferent to whatever's going on around you, and it can be quite hard for you to engage or commit to life and situations. And it's easy for you to feel quite emotionally overwhelmed, and it can be quite hard to assert yourself. It's quite a soft sign. So on the upside, the whole kind of dreamy part of the Cancer Moon is that it's very creative. It's a very creative sign, very imaginative, very original thinking. A lot of very lateral thinking goes on with this energy, and they are it's very idealistic, very loyal, very caring. And nurturing as a sign. The essence that I put together for this one is encourages active engagement so that you can become also more assertive, more interdependent rather than leaning on people around you, um, overly, and it helps you to manifest your dreams, to ground your thoughts into action, and it helps you to commit to whatever it is you need to commit to. The next one couldn't be more different, Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun, and this sign, the soul journey for this one, I have encapsulated as over enthusiasm, moving to as it heals, moving into leadership with humility and service and a sense of service. So Leo energy is quite exciting energy. It's very fiery. They take possibly too many risks. They can be quite excessive. They can sacrifice rather too much in pursuit of their goals. If they're not careful, they can be quite evangelical. There's a lot of willpower with the Leo energy, and that can impact their ability to listen to others. They can just sort of, charge forward and not really take on board other people's advice or opinions. They love to give. They're really generous people, but they also, on the flip side of that, find it very hard to receive until they've done some work on themselves. They can also be rather proud, a bit intolerant, and quite opinionated about anything that they feel strongly on, which they usually do. And on the upside, as I've said, they're very passionate, they're very exuberant, they're a lot of fun sometimes to be around if you need some energy. They're very caring, very warm-hearted. They have a lot of strength, a lot of vision. They love to embrace a cause, and they can, as leaders, be extremely inspiring. And they do have a lot of very good leadership qualities. So the healing essence I put together for this one is it helps to balance your personal power. It helps you let go of control and struggle so that you can delegate and actually receive support from others around you and see what's really important. It helps you to soften and become more tolerant, have greater humility and greater cooperation with others. So you become more of a team player. And then moving on to Virgo is the next sign, which is some would say ruled by Mercury, others by Chiron, the wounded healer. And the soul journey for this sign, I would say, is from sacrificial service to abundant, healthy giving. And because with Virgo, there's always a temptation. They're very empathic people. It's a very empathic energy. It's very tempting to get into self-sacrifice and undervalue yourself and be therefore, very influenced by people either criticizing or praising you. You can react to other people's responses to you rather than be inwardly directed. And you're quite easily hurt, quite a sensitive sign, this one. And there can be a tendency to project that outwards and see other people's sensitivity and be very overprotective. And perhaps, in doing so, you may find you disempower people around you because you're trying to protect them from themselves almost. Um, and there is also a tendency to escape into other people's problems to avoid your own, which is something to be thought about, especially if you're in the caring professions or in therapy, that sort of role. It can really benefit from this essence. On the upside of Virgo, they're very supportive people, very considerate, very sensitive, very empathic. They can also be extremely romantic. And they have a real eye for detail. This is something a lot of people do know about Virgoans. They're very perfectionist. They can spot, things that need changing and correcting. But that also comes from an appreciation of quality, and they're very observant, very discerning, which is why they make very good proofreaders and editors. And if you want if you want to look at the kind of healing journey of this sign, the essence I put together helps you to have very clear boundaries and expectations of yourself and of others, so that you are able to give from a sense of fulfillment and joy. So you're pouring from a full cup, if you like. You're also it also helps you to become more aware of the value of your own work and your time and gives you a greater sense of self-confidence. So a good one to take before asking for a pay rise. Um, the next one is Venus, ruling Libra. And the soul journey of this planet is around being externally influenced in the shadow, but coming into the light, you become more inwardly directed, having more confidence in your own inner authority. So Librans can things they need to work on are usually the lack of communication with their inner guidance. They tend to go with the prevailing wind. So if you can imagine like a cockerel on a weather vane, they'll tend to blow with wherever the wind's blowing. So the last person they spoke to might be the opinion they're suddenly voicing. And it can be a bit disconcerting, and you're not quite sure what they really think. They will also tend to be influenced by social norms and family traditions. They can be quite indecisive and scattered and inconsistent and have mood swings that throw you a bit, 10 o'clock in the morning they're in this mood and by 12 they're in a completely other mood. And because of that lack of focus that they can suffer from, they can also waste opportunities in their lives. And it's usually just an attempt to avoid making a decision because Librans hate making decisions. On the upside, Librans can be very bright, very charming, very diplomatic. They're usually very skilled mediators, and they can synthesize information, feelings, atmospheres really well, and just summarize what's going on um, very quickly. They have a very strong sense of fairness and equality and justice and balance in any situation. They will tell you immediately where there's too much of this, not enough of that. Um, and that does, then they're also very creative people. They appreciate harmony and beauty, and they enjoy the arts. And um, as a healing essence, what I've put together for Libra is something that will help you see what no longer serves you, what supports needed change in your life. It will guide you down the right path and keep you focused and strengthen your sense of identity, keeping you more connected to your higher guidance. This essence is very calming, very empowering, give you a stronger sense of your own identity. Then we move to Scorpio, which is ruled by Pluto. I feel we should have a drum roll. It's rather a dramatic planet. And the soul journey of this is conditional giving to unconditional love. I mean, what a lovely, lovely end to the soul journey of Scorpio. They tend to be their darkness, if you like, or the shadow side of and the learning side of Scorpio comes from a fear of lack. It's very fundamental to the sign. So that means that you may hoard, be possessive of both things and of people. That you may create drama to keep people close to you. So there can be quite a bit of manipulation unconsciously or consciously, depending where you are on your journey. Um, it can also be a sign that overgives in order to create dependency, and then inevitably that boomerangs back to feeling unappreciated and, how come I'm giving everything and nobody else is giving anything like as much as me? And there's a sense of not feeling appreciated. So you may also find that you keep score in relationships if you've got this strongly in your chart. It can be quite challenging to forgive and to let go and to trust. On the upside, if you walk into a room, you can usually spot a Scorpio because they're very charismatic, very intense personalities, very passionate, very loving and intuitive and caring, and very empathic. They often use those skills in therapy and um, even in catching criminals. They're very good detectives. They love to learn. They have a very lively curiosity. They're skilled at seeing people's motivations and reading situations. And they have a capacity to embody love in its highest form, which is really quite something. Um, their healing essence will give you the courage for really deep transformation. It'll help you to cut ties that you might have formed with others and unhealthy ties, and forgive the past, even if it's at an ancestral level. Very deep essences these, and it will help you to release the need to control, so you're free to see things from a much higher perspective, and that will enable new doors to open in your life. Then moving to Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, and we're looking here at a journey from inner conflict to inner peace. And the so when Sagittarian energy is around, there's usually a lot of laughter, and they're very entertaining. They're great storytellers, but that mask is often a happy mask, and behind it, they because they tend to internalize difficult feelings, they can be inside themselves. They can be very restless and very easily influenced. They find it quite hard to discipline themselves and to stick to their intentions. So things like diets and exercise regimes and so on can be a tough gig for someone with a lot of Jupiter energy. And they will tend to avoid conflict and difficulty. So because of that, they tend to be a bit prone to addiction because they're trying to self-soothe all of this, restlessness inside, and then they find it difficult to share because they don't want to burden others, and therefore they tend to, get along the road of too much I know, eating, drinking, drugs, whatever else, might be helpful to help them numb out a bit, and not and keeping busy is another very common behavior of Sagittarius and Jupiter. There's an avoidance strategy of just, if I keep busy, I'm a moving target, and no one can sit me down and look me in the eye and ask me about my problems. And they can also be quite careless of danger, so they can be quite risk-taking. Um, but as I say, go into a room with a Sagittarian, they'll be there telling stories, keeping everyone terribly entertained. They've got a marvelous sense of humor. They're very funny people, very popular because of that, very reassuring presence, Jupiter, and very generous and enthusiastic, passionate. They're very visionary. You've got that symbol of the archer firing upwards into dreams and ideals, and they're exciting as well. They're exciting people to be around. Um, and the healing essence for this is about finding your own identity, helping you to find who you really are and create an authentic life. And it will help you also to calm down, to feel more stable, and to awaken a stronger connection to your higher self, so that you can release this, any tendency towards addictive behavior, and help you release into peace and open communication, so you can share your concerns with others. Um, they're mirror into Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. So if you've got any Saturn returns coming up or something like that, this is one to look at. The journey for this sign is from fear to courage, empathy, and compassion. The the fear comes that Capricorn feels is leads to distrust of others, of the universe. It makes it hard for them to share their worries, and they tend to perform to cover up the nerves they feel. They're sensitive, and they're quite easily overwhelmed, which you wouldn't necessarily guess if you were around Capricorn energy. But behind the performing, there is actually quite a lot of overwhelm and procrastination because they want to avoid difficulties. And they can often do that also by using illness or drama in their life to avoid looking at certain things. They tend to feel very over-responsible and rather burdened. On the upside, they are very brave, purposeful, very inspiring. People often say about Capricorns, if you've got it as a sun sign, that you're often born old in the sense that, in a nice way, you grow into your Capricorn energy. And as you get older, it becomes much easier. Life becomes easier. You become more settled, like a fine wine. So if you're looking for responsible leaders or elders in a community, then Capricorn energy is where I would definitely be looking. Healing, the healing essence for this planet is going to release stress and burdens, bring closure to unfinished business. It supports overwhelm. It fills you with courage to speak up, to share your gifts, and to soften any criticism you've got of yourself, your inner critic, so that you can love yourself and allow yourself more pleasure and fun in life. And it will also increase your energy, your physical energy, and any sense of compassion. It will really energize that. And almost penultimate sign on the zodiac, Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus. And the soul journey for this will take you from a sense of isolation to a sense of joyful sharing. So Aquarians often carry a lot of ancestral grief, and that's quite hard for them to share with anybody. So they can appear quite aloof and quite proud people. So they may not be very approachable as an energy. Quite hard to get into an intimate space with an Aquarian. And so as a result, if you have a lot of Aquarian energy, you might feel quite isolated, quite tense. It might be hard for you to relax. On the upside, Aquarian energy is very innovative, very wise, very compassionate, very tactful. very calm and understanding, very inspiring, very talented, and very capable. They value independence and they are tremendous humanitarians. So it's great that we are now in the age of Aquarius. The healing essence I've put together for this one is going to help you to reach out and connect with others, to find a place of belonging, either in your family or in community, a sense of place, a role for yourself where you're valued. And it will help you to commit to being here, to being more optimistic and more approachable to others. And finally, we reach Pisces, ruled by Neptune. And the soul journey of this one is frightened rescuing to empowered spirituality. And the difficulties that Piscean energy often encounter are around addictive behavior. They have such empathy for others, probably more than any of the other signs, and that can lead to their nervous system getting really overwhelmed, and they get nervous exhaustion. And because of that, they're often self-soothing using addictive behavior. They may also lack discernment because it's difficult for them to find a sense of boundaries of themselves, and they're such naturally inclusive people because they understand that we're all one, and they'll tend to pick up lame ducks and end up with lots of people being very dependent on them. So their boundaries can get very blurred, and they will overgive. So the thing that they're not in touch with is their own authority. Very often, that's a big learning for Pisceans. And some of their more difficult behaviors come from a fear of loss and rejection and abandonment, which means that they will potentially overcompromise, people please, and bend themselves into all sorts of shapes just so that people don't leave them, would be the underlying motivation for that. They are calm, they're competent in their presentation, but behind that there's often a lot of anxiety. On the upside of Neptune, well, lots of wonderful things there. Mystical, they're original, there's an innate understanding that we are all connected, and they're extremely kind. They're probably the kindest of all the zodiac. They're very warm-hearted. They easily connect to other dimensions, and they're extremely, as I said before, very inclusive people. If they see someone that seems a bit left out, they'll automatically go over and include them. And the healing essence for this planet is going to help you to stop taking on other people's problems, help you to calm down, to be more discerning, to enforce your boundaries, to be able to say no in a loving, kind way. There's something there to help ease the pain of loss that may not be integrated yet, and gently to assert your own needs, and to help you to see the future with clarity, with security, and with optimism. And with that, that is the end of the Planetary Essence video, and I'll hope you enjoyed it.